Hello again and welcome to Letter from England, broadcasting for AC Press and the Spanish Evangelical Alliance. My name is Jonathan Dawson. The Tower of Babel has been made in Spain. It's one of the most emblematic pieces of human architecture from the ancient world, thanks to its being recorded in the book of Genesis. It's the place where human arrogance reached its, in the end, rather puny height, and where it was soundly defeated when God confused the languages spoken by the builders, forcing them to abandon their project of constructing, as they hoped, a tower that would reach heaven. Well, how come it's been made in Spain? Well, Murcia Archaeological Museum is about to host an exhibition showing various reliefs and other artifacts from the ancient world, from the region of Babylon specifically. Some ziggurat bricks, never before exhibited in Spain, will join some reliefs from a much later period than Babel, of course, but from that of Nebuchadnezzar. Under the exhibition titled The Tower of Babel, History and Myth, the exhibition runs from December to March and offers an unparalleled opportunity to learn something first-hand of the exciting story of Babylon and ancient Mesopotamia. Among the exhibits are two huge lion reliefs and one of a dragon, which come from the main avenue in the Ishtar Gate in Babylon, and which were made during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. Usually they're housed in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin. Also there, and the pièce de résistance of the exhibition, a 19-piece model of the Tower of Babel, the first to be made in Spain. One of the research team, Juan Luis Montero, explains that the exhibition aims to clarify the origin of the tower and its importance. He says the Tower of Babel was a monument linked to religious beliefs, but was human. 2 models and 4 audiovisual presentations will follow the theory that the tower was a stepped temple, a ziggurat, for which Babylon became famous. Visitors to the exhibition will get a virtual tour of the city, and he says they will discover a critical and fresh vision of Babylonian civilization in the 1st and 2nd millennia BC. And Montero is clearly proud of the fact that this is the first time such a model has been made in Spain, and indeed very possibly in Europe. The reconstruction of a ziggurat, recalling a tower which has long since disappeared, and about which, Montero promises, the exhibition will give a groundbreaking hypothesis. Well, he wouldn't give any more details other than to say that the model will be 60 meters high. The exhibition is to be divided into 4 sections. Once Upon a Time in Babylon covers the historical and geographical background to the city. Babylon, its history, looks at urban development. The Tower of Babel, centre of the world, seeks to set the construction in its context. And finally, Babylon, Babel and the Bible, the myth, will try to uncover the legend. One wonders how seriously they will take the biblical text there. Specialists from around the world will give talks at the museum during the exhibition's stay. But what does the Bible say about the Tower of Babel? Well, we can read about that in Genesis chapter 11. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. People had begun to move away from where the ark had run aground, but there was still only one language and dialect. A group of Ham's descendants, one of the sons of Noah, perhaps trying to escape their slavery to Shem's, who knows, arrived on the plain of Shinar and thought it an ideal spot to settle down. They might not think so today, it's central Iraq. But Nimrod's little gang said, this is the place. But God got angry with them. Why? What was wrong with their building project? Well, it's all about wanting a name for themselves. God, of course, had made man in his own image, had given Adam a name. Adam had then named the animals. Naming something meant having authority over it. So in effect, these people were saying that they were tired of being under God's authority. We'll establish our own, they said. They wanted to exclude God from his creation, as so many do today. They wanted to say that there is, certainly not the God of the sovereign God of all creation, but a God of their own making was what they wanted. Let's ditch the religion that binds us, they say. So they bake bricks rather than use natural stone, using the ultimate in technology in an attempt to rival God. They want a name for themselves. They want to show they can make it by their own efforts. Part of human pride, of course, is contempt for God. We can cope on our own, we say. But along with independence and bravado, there's great fear here, isn't there? They're scared of being scattered. And to me, the city sounds more like a fortress. Are they afraid they can't really solve their problems? Waving the proverbial fist at God? What a tragedy, for that same God had put a sign of friendship in the sky. They looked at a tower that they were building. They should have looked at the rainbow that God had put in the sky to remind them that he wouldn't send the flood. Josephus, the 1st century AD historian who read little after Jesus' time, says that Nimrod and co. wanted to build a tower too high for the waters to be able to reach, even though God had said he wouldn't send another flood, and to avenge himself on God for destroying their forefathers, which is an interesting suggestion. And Babel really is the start of idol worship, of counterfeit religion. It's a substitute established by humans as an alternative to the worship of the true God. Humans always seem to think they've got better ideas than God, but God's ideas always carry the day. So they thought they'd made it in their tower, until God went down and confused their languages. Suddenly they can't even talk to each other. They thought themselves free of God's control, and they find themselves more controlled than ever. It's a brilliant divine stroke. Suddenly they can't communicate anymore. Enter confusion, suspicion, frustration. First the languages, and later religious confusion as each group develops its own religion. Many different gods arise among all the different language groups, hence all the religions today. The religion of Nimrod now has dozens of different versions around the world. Wars come between the different groups, and of course religion is tied up in their identity and desire to prove themselves superior to others. So what will God do? Well, he promises to do the very thing that Nimrod wanted, to make his name great, but not Nimrod's, who'd chosen his own way. God chose Abraham and made himself a people. He keeps alive a line of people who will follow him, of course, until the Saviour comes, Jesus Christ. So God's response is to act in judgment, but also in mercy. If he'd let them carry on, things would have got even worse. He's resolved to sort the issue out. He won't allow man to go on independently forever. He will be active in his world. He knows man cannot save himself. Only God can. So God doesn't deal with the outward symptoms. He doesn't kill the builders or smash the tower. Rather, he deals with the inner problem. He destroys, to use a rather contemporary expression, the coalition of evil. He creates misunderstanding between them. He scatters the rebels from their anti-God project. Jacques Ellul, the contemporary philosopher, says man can live in his towers. He can build his skyscrapers and his giant cities. He can cover the world in concrete. But there are no more meanings for him. Babel will never be finished. And Babel building goes on around the world today, not just cities or towers, but lives centered on making a name for themselves, a me-centered existence. These people tried to gang up against God, and he confused them and scattered them. Their precious tower was left half-built. He created a whole load of languages, put them in the mouths of people, and broke them up into different language groups. And the confusion, which is what the word Babel means, of languages, was only reversed many, many centuries later at Pentecost, as people from all nations heard the good news of Jesus in their own languages and were united around the same message. And then God did a new scattering, this time sending his gospel message around the world by giving it to all those people groups in their own languages, and soon afterwards by sending his disciples out from Jerusalem to spread the word. And the fact that people from all countries heard the gospel in their own languages shows that the message is for everybody. We've talked about the book of Genesis, which is the first book in the Bible. The very last book in the Bible, Revelation, gives us a picture of people from every nation and language group worshipping Christ. But that's some way off still in Genesis 11. So what's our response? Will we make our own towers and hide in them, or even feel proud in them? Bake our own bricks instead of using God's stones, as it were? Or will we turn to Christ and rely on him? Babylon today is a mound in the desert outside Baghdad. The ruins are just enough to show that it used to be something, and it symbolizes what will become of everyone who rebels against God. As Revelation chapter 14 puts it, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries." The greatest freedom, though, comes in obedience to God. And amidst the chaos and confusion of our cities and the babble of the nations, God sees each one of us, a close-up picture of our hearts and minds. What does he see? Someone who, with all their struggles, wants to serve and obey God, someone who wants to do their job to the best of their ability, who wants to raise their children in a way that honours God, who wants their friends and colleagues to share their faith? Or does he see someone shut away in their own tower, proud of their achievements and perhaps just a little fearful of coming out of the tower? not willing to place their dependence upon God. You know, the story of Genesis, and really the story of mankind, is one of two cities. Nimrod said, "Let us build a city." Abraham, it says, looked for a city whose builder and maker is God. Thank you for listening to Letter from England, broadcasting at emission.net for AC Press. Goodbye for now.